Maria is an entrepreneur, everyone, and we met in Mallorca last year, which on a boat trip, and we're just going to talk about what she's up to, how she's getting on, and talk about Panic Panties. So what is Panic Panties? I've got loads of questions, but you give a little
Oh, I'm
introduction of
sure.
what
I'm
is.
sure. Yeah, the name always sparks a lot of questions. So, panic
Yeah, it's a
panties
great
are
name.
premium, individually wrapped, pre-washed underwear, so you can put
There
them
we
on your
go.
body right away, sold in convenient places for women on the go. So, we're talking convenience stores, airports, hotels, hospitals, places where women really need a fresh pair of panties in a pinch. And so, we're providing them with a better, discreet, easy to find solution.
That's brilliant. And how long have you? When did you start the company? How old is it? Because I did do an Instagram stalk, and I went as far back as I could to see if I could get some
Oh my
on
God.
Panic Panties. Has it been a couple years? A few
Yeah, it's
years?
been a bit, but it's been such a process. So we came up with the idea, I think in like 2018.
Okay,
And I own it with my two best friends. So it's
perfect.
really, really cool creating a business and with, your besties that are pretty much
Hmm.
like sisters.
Yeah,
And so we came up with the idea when we were out one night in New York and we were like slamming margaritas. And that day, like all three of us had an instance where we were frustrated by the on the go underwear options out there. So in the US, you have like a CVS, Dwayne Reed, Walgreens. We were living in Manhattan at that time. So that's where you go for all of like your essentials at any time of the day or night. And they only have the Hanes and Fruit of the Loom granny panties. So they're not cute. We would never wear them. And so we found ourselves like in these moments where we were super frustrated by the options out there. And so we just decided to create our own. So there was so much time from, that original night where we came up with the idea to then creating the LLC, figuring out what the name was going to be. And then we, had this whole journey of how do you create an underwear company? Like we had no idea. We had no fashion experience. I was a journalism major and was working in, uh, in editorial most of my career. Alex was a CPA. So she numbers girly. And then Catherine Ann was like marketing and branded partnership. So none of us had any experience really like starting an underwear business. So it took time to find a manufacturer, to create the brand, all of that. So this is my long-winded way of saying our real launch was January of 2020. That was when we found like an actual sustainable manufacturing partner and had our first big batch of inventory shipped to the US. I was always trying to like create businesses. Like I had an art gallery when I was like 7 called like K&M Co, where I'd put it like I didn't even have talent. I was just like, "Oh, I can do this." And then I invented like this backpack that turns into a sweatshirt because I was always cold, and I was selling seashells wherever I could. I'd like paint them and try and sell them to all my parents' friends. It was like little things, but I was always trying to find a way to create. Um, and then you know I just never, I don't know why I didn't pursue it in college. Everybody always told me I was a great writer. And
hmm
so I was like, okay, like I would love to work at a magazine, that would be cool. And so that's what I did. That was my career. But quickly realized that you don't make very much money working at a magazine and it's very hard to move up in
yeah,
those kinds of jobs. So that was kind of what started my entrepreneurial itch again. I was like, there's got to be something. There's got to be something that I can create on my own. And Alex, one of our co-founders, actually, the two of us started a kickboxing company in Manhattan when we were like 24. And so we were still working full time. I was working in advertising at that point. And we would be running from like work to like our studio to set up and like host
wow.
the classes. I'd be taking customer service calls like during the day at work, like
Oh my
under my
goodness.
desk, like trying not to let anybody hear me. So that was like our first like dabble, but we were so young and it was
Mm,
just like, kind of like after work hours. And we needed a lot of money to scale in New York. So
hmm
we ultimately closed it down and Panic Panties, the idea came along like a few years later. So we were ready for it. We were looking for something, but we just wanted it to be something meaningful, not just to create a business, just to create one.
Yeah, something that was you believed in and had a lot of relevance to you. Yeah, yeah, fair enough. So,
Hmm.
do you find that a lot of entrepreneurs that you meet have because I've watched a load of podcasts with entrepreneurs, and they all say, "Oh yeah, I was selling lemonade by age like 5." And do you find that a lot, or do you meet people that just go, "I'm going to become an entrepreneur"? Have you met many other entrepreneurs? Have you been to like event? Do you
Oh
does
yeah,
is networking like is that important? Is
yeah,
that relevant? It must be.
so
Of course, it
important.
is.
So important. Like honestly, that's the most important part about being starting your own business is
Okay.
it's like a puzzle. Like I just always say take a call, like take the call. Keep connections, like the best of your ability. Obviously, we all have like so much time in the day and it's really hard to keep in touch with people, but I just believe in forming meaningful connections and helping people when you can. And you because you really it's all about like finding the right factory for us, finding a graphic designer, finding a technical designer to help us design the panties. Like all of this came from like connections that we made or previous people that we knew. Um, and we would be nowhere without it. So that's like number one, definitely. And I would say out of the three of us, I am the networker. I'm always trying to like go to startup events and create like a community. Being an entrepreneur can also be like pretty lonely because you're probably like a little certifiably insane. So it's nice to surround yourself with other people that are kind of have the same struggles. But to your question, yeah, I think that I'd say that there's probably like two classes of people that I see. Like one, to your point, like it's the people that have been selling whatever they can from whatever age they could. And they just are born with that desire to create. And then I think there's people that maybe weren't, but they found a problem that they're so passionate about, like especially in I feel like the health community, like maybe they had an illness that really had them like create something. So I think there's those two classes, but I really do being an entrepreneur is so hard. It's it's so hard that you really have to have such a love of either that life path or what you're creating or both.
Yeah, because it's just problems, isn't it? That's effectively what you're just putting out fires non-stop almost. That's like because problems are they're just like a universal in anything, and that's you encounter problems and you fix one problem and then you create another problem and you're like, well, how has that worked? What's happened here? And you've got to managing all these different things, and then you've
Oh
got to
yeah.
manage people as well, which I think maybe not, but when I mean, how many employees do you have at the moment, or what's the like structure of that?
Yeah, so we're still very lean
Hmm.
because we're self-funded at this point. Cash flow is so important for our
Yeah,
inventory and for our retail partnerships, which are actually very expensive. We
I
could
can
get into
imagine.
this, but you think getting into
Yeah,
one big store will change your life. But it's not
no.
always what you would imagine it to be. There's a much longer road and a lot of expenses that businesses incur these days, especially CPG, which is consumer packaged goods, which is what we're considered.
Do you ever get imposter syndrome?
All the time. I think that I am a struggling trying to be a recovering perfectionist, but I just always feel like I could be doing better or I could be doing more or I could be um it's hard to sometimes it's hard to take a step back and to look and be like this is where I want to be, but like look at where we are. It's so important to do that because I think that I personally like beat myself more than even imposter syndrome. I think I'm just like, oh, I want to be so much farther. Like I want this to be um so much bigger at this point. And I think yeah, and I think hard on myself and I'm sure my co-founders feel the same way in a lot of ways. So I think I've been working on that and also like just I had a hard time in around January. We had done like a really big Kickstarter. We were working on the new line, trying to get it done. We were in manufacturing the new line and it was around Christmas and I was just like not sleep like I worked all Christmas, Christmas Eve, like I didn't take any time off and I love what I do so much that it's so easy to keep doing it, but I wasn't giving myself breaks. And so I really kind of like burnt out in January. I had
Mm.
a tough
Yeah,
time. I had
yeah,
to take like a week off of work, and I was just like mental health wise was not what I needed to be doing. And
hmm
I think this is important for entrepreneurs to talk about because, we just see
definitely.
the shiny things. We don't see like the meltdowns on the other side. And
Mhm.
so after post January, I've made it like promise to myself to take more time off, to really, try and have a weekend. Like, don't work all
Mm.
weekend, like to try and get out and experience things and find joy in little things and treat myself to little things. And even if I really want to be working because I'm excited about what we're working on, like, no, computer shut, go out, get some sun, have some fun, think about other things. Like, it's not that serious. At the end of the day, it's a job, it's a business, it's not your health, it's not your
Mm.
family, so
Yeah.
really I think that that's sorry, I kind of went on a tangent, but
No,
and then also
it's
just
brilliant.
taking time to be proud and reflect and be like, wow, I crushed that, or I did a great job, or like just, being proud of where you are in the moment.
Absolutely. That's so important. It is. It's like when you make if this is a weird sort of comparison, but imagine you make a film and it's like cost hundreds of millions of pounds and all this work goes into it, and then it gets. Do you know what IMDb is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it gets reduced to like a number on IMDb, and it's like 6.7 out of 10, and it's like that took months and months and months, and I think that's one of the be doing something creative is
Hmm.
it can be reduced. Other people reduce it, and it can be reduced so easily, and you put so much effort in, and you love it, and I mean, it doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. It just it's sort of built into the I don't know the rule book of doing something creative is that someone else can look at it and go, to them, it's not what it is to you, and that can be hard to sort of get your head around and go, this is this is so much to me, but they just see it as like they see anything in the street, and that can, I imagine, in January when it's all dark and it must be really hard, and you must have to motivate yourself to keep going when things are getting
For sure. And I feel like when that whole I refer to it, it's funny, as like January, like what happened in Jan, and
yeah,
it was really just like my breaking point of like being like I need a better work-life balance, which I feel like a lot of
yeah,
entrepreneurs probably struggle with, especially when you love what you do, because it's like, yeah, I would love to like I'm an introvert. So like I would rather
mm,
stay in and do work and do something creative or work on our Instagram or something like,
yeah,
kind of like fun, but it's still about work. And like, no,
yeah,
you need to separate who you are as a person from this business. Like it can't be so intertwined all the time. Like
mhm,
my identity and my like purpose is
yeah.
greater than just being a business owner. And I think that's something that I'm constantly working on. Um, but the creativity, what you're saying is like, people's opinions and judgments, 1,000%. It's so personal. Like, and I like that you're,
Yeah.
comparing it to like a movie or, something like that where somebody's created and you're getting all these reviews. Like we're sold on Urban Outfitters, and
Not it wasn't
somebody,
even the reviews. It was just like if you people just walk past it in like you would walk past anything in a shop, and it's because it's, as you said a minute ago, you've sort of it would be very easy to tie your identity to it because it's a problem that is
yeah,
relevant to you, and it's like your baby. And
yeah,
I imagine it's sort of it's firmly, you have to try and sort of hold on to it tightly, but also not tightly at the same time, because you need to hold on to it effectively so that you can get going and improving, which it is, but
mhm.
also not attach yourself to it at the same time.
Outfitters online there, and we've been top rated for both of our styles. And
Perfect.
like you'll get somebody that'll write a review, right? And it's like, I think they gave us 1 star for one of our styles, and they were like too high rise. And that, it's you gotta like kind of like swallow it down, right? Because is that worth, for one person it could be too high rise, for somebody else it could be too low rise. It's
Mm,
just like, or somebody else it's perfect and they love it. Does that deserve a 1 star review? Like in my opinion, no. Like
yeah.
maybe it's just like for you, but it's, or somebody that might be like, oh, I don't understand, like I don't have a need for this, or like I've never, some women like to go commando and like they don't think of underwear in that way, or like they
Mhm.
don't, they're not, leaving their town or their neighborhood, or like they don't, it's not, nothing is for everyone, and that's okay, and it
Hmm.
shouldn't be for everyone, because if you're targeting absolutely everyone, you're like missing the opportunity of really catering to your specific demographic and the person that needs you and the
Yeah.
person that's going to value you as a customer. So I
Yeah.
think that you just can't take anything personally. Nothing is for everyone. And also, like, reviews are great because I love that feedback. Like, whether it's good,
Mhm.
bad, ugly, whatever it is, like, it's just so valuable to have that feedback from a customer. And yeah,
But
can't take it
yeah,
personally
it
though.
isn't. But it is for it is the concept is for a lot of people though. It's like everything.
Mhm.
It's there are a billion ideas out there that no one's ever thought of. But if you handed this thing to them that no one's invented, they go, "Yeah, this is great." Or maybe some of them would, but there's always it's like minority and majority influence, isn't it? There's the people that
Yeah.
well, the minority of people that start off are the ones that are maybe slightly more um, creative in their way of thinking, and they push. They sort of, oh, that's interesting, something new, that's cool, I'll buy that, and then eventually it becomes they tell their friend, and then they tell their friend, and then it sort of spreads, and then it gets to the point where it's no longer a minority but it's a majority, and then the people that buy it, they don't feel as they're not as isolated if that, but they're not putting themselves out as much. You understand what I mean? Sort of the because
Yeah.
we're quite that's another of the problems about being a entrepreneur, I can imagine, is that humans are very risk averse. So we don't really
Mhm.
want to do anything that is gonna rock the boat, or you don't want to put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
And you think I've got a brilliant idea, which is a brilliant idea, obviously, and you think that's it, brilliant idea, marketing's great, but also a lot of it is getting people to feel confident enough to take a risk. It sounds ridiculous, take a risk, but it kind of is for a person that's it's an unknown. It's not like you've created a new chocolate bar and everyone's like, oh, I wonder what that tastes like. No,
Yeah.
it's a new.
Yeah, so much of what we do is kind of like making people feel confident in taking the risk. And so, whether it be from the consumer, right? Like they're spending their hard-earned money on
Hmm.
this pair of underwear that they may, or as any emerging brand, they may be seeing for the first time, or you're making decisions all the time as a consumer and as a person. So
Yeah,
the packaging, the marketing, the branding, it all has to be there to like make them feel more comfortable making this decision, taking this risk,
yeah,
even though it's like,
exactly.
small scale, and we're filling a need
Yeah,
that they don't currently have, so it's easy for them to make that decision. But more
100%.
importantly, buyers. So 95% of our business is wholesale. So that's getting into retailers that would carry our product. We will be
Hmm.
ramping up like our online D2C, but our mission is to first and foremost be sold when and where women need us most. So
Mm.
yeah, so for the buyers of these retailers, it's a big deal when they're bringing in a new product. It's their
Absolutely.
careers that are on the line if something doesn't perform. So much of our job is to show these buyers why their customers need a better solution, why this is something that they're missing, why this is a huge opportunity for them, something that we call an incremental sale, which is when it's not going to cannibalize any of their other options that are out there. We're
Hmm.
bringing underwear to either retailers that don't currently carry underwear, like airports. 1,000% they need women's underwear. How many times?
Yes,
I mean, I
airports.
also, what
Yeah,
I love so
wow,
much
that's
about this
brilliant.
brand what I love so much about this brand is when we're talking to people in real life, like whether I'm going, I'll go to our retailers and looking around to see what the customers are, how they're reacting to the product, or trade shows or whatever. Everyone, like the majority of people, have these very intimate stories or embarrassing stories
Mm.
or whatever,
Yeah.
frustrating stories. At times they've been like, why, underwear is a wellness essential for women. There's so many reasons we need it. And they're just like, why is this not sold somewhere that is convenient for me, that's ready to wear, all of that? It's just such a miss. So, or they'll be like, I got stranded at this airport, I had to wash my underwear in the sink. You would be shocked how many women have told us that they've washed underwear in the sink at an airport and had to hand dry it under the dryer. It's so I love that women get to be vulnerable and talk about something that is maybe, could be a little bit embarrassing, but we're like, it's not embarrassing, it's life and it happens to all of us. So let's talk about it. Let's laugh about it together. Um, so so yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I so appreciate all of those stories. and and so the risk in the consumer is so much less, and we find that women, when after they buy the underwear, like they'll buy them in a moment of panic, or because they love the packaging, or they thought it was interesting to keep in their bag, or really smart, whatever, then they actually wear them and they're blown away by the quality, because we didn't just want it to be
Yeah.
an on the go solution. We wanted it to be something that you're going to be like, oh my God, I love these. I want to wear these every single day. And also, it's like a safety net for me for whenever I need a spare pair in a pinch.
The opportunities are endless. Really, you could, as you were talking, I was thinking you could like have dispensers. You could like put them in a toilet, because they have like a public toilet, a public restroom. They could go in offices, like
Mhm.
um, they could, schools for like um, young girls. I mean, because I mean, literally because it's such a, it's not your target market, as much as there'll be some people who you'd be more inclined to buy it, but every woman wears underwear, and
Yeah.
everyone, as you said, everyone will have an experience like that, and they stay a night somewhere and they're like, I want to change, or exactly. So it's all um yeah, very perfect. What
Mhm.
about men?
So funny. Men are always asking one, what I think is so cool about our brand and our product is that I have never encountered another product that's made for women primarily, um,
Mhm.
that men have like such strong like interests and opinions about. Like it's just
Wow.
funny. Like I have a lot of guy friends, or I'm always networking, and if it's like a tampon brand or an underwear brand, normally like guys don't really have anything to say about it. They're like, okay,
Of
not my
course.
territory. I don't know if it's something about the name or the use case or the need that we're filling, but I've been in conversations for hours about guys, like with guys, like giving feedback or saying how cool it is, or like they trying to understand why women would need it, or just like general curiosity. And then they're always like, well, when do we get ours? And
Mm.
and it's definitely on our radar. I think that we started with
Not
women
yet.
because women have more use cases, but also,
Yeah.
you be shockingly enough, a lot of like rest stops on the highway have men's underwear but not women's, which is
Really.
so interesting. And it could be because of the number of in some travel centers, like male truck drivers versus women on the
Yeah.
road. But
Mhm.
that number has actually increased. I think we have a stat by like 80%, women truck drivers too, and that's like a very niche kind of segment. Um, but there's better underwear options out there for men than there are for women on the go.
Yeah.
So we wanted to
I can
first and
imagine.
foremost cater to our need and the ladies.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that men, it's definitely on the horizon, but after we've really established.
Any aha moments? Do you know what I mean? Aha
Oh
moments
God, there's aha moments every day.
every day. Good. Nice.
Aha moments all the time. Um, about anything specific?
Uh,
Like I
about,
would say,
oh,
mhm.
yeah. No, go.
um, I think there's so many categories of aha moments. Um, there was, you know, mental health, which I've already talked
Yeah.
about, and just like finding balance. There was a lot of obstacles actually being a woman in business, and which
That's
I
brilliant.
don't know if it
Actually,
was. Yeah, I don't know if I
I was
was
going to ask that.
naive to that. I just never thought of myself as like, and this, kind of comes from like coming from like, you know, I guess a bit of privilege, of course. Like, I just was never, I never thought that like being a woman would hold me back in any way or would make things more challenging. I just was like, I actually just think women are brilliant and incredible and so resilient. And
Hmm.
I thought that it would do nothing but help. But, we actually one of our first factories that we were working with was with a lot of men. All men owned the factory, and the 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 lack of respect that we really encountered, and um, kind of we had quality control issues in terms of the fabric was amazing, but the fit of the garments, and this was like way early on, they were so inconsistent. Like we have a spec that every panty is like to spec, and you
Hmm.
have a bit of
Of course.
tolerance. And this is with any garment, which we learned. It has to be this measurement, but you have a little bit of wiggle room, either big or small, because nothing's going to be exactly on point when you're producing hundreds of thousands of garments. Um,
Hmm.
but this particular factory was way off. I mean, like putting like a small waistband with a large body, like it just was not even close to what we agreed on. And this was during COVID, and I had to fly to that factory twice during COVID, once around the holidays, once in the fall. I had a quarantine, couldn't be with my family, and it was just a quality control issue that they weren't taking accountability for. And I was happy to be there going through all the inventory on my own, but even after that, they mixed it all up. But we were having a talk with them afterwards, and we said, I think this is a quality control issue. And they had the audacity to say to us, I think it's an expectations issue. And I can guarantee if there is a man in our seat, that would not be something that was said. And it was just like, we're in our early 30s, but just with older men not taking us seriously enough. Um, and so that was super frustrating. And then we were like, okay, well, we're not doing this. Like, we're gonna find a better solution. And we found another factory that we're working with now that is wonderful, so respectful, wonderfully run, like just love everything about it, and we're very lucky. But we had to make that decision, like, to uproot your entire manufacturing
Yeah.
um is incredibly hard. It's such a long process. The
Must be.
training that goes into it, finding another factory that's reputable, that's
Wow.
sustainable, that is ethical, like all of that, there's just a lot, and it's not easy to find them. So that was like, that was an aha moment. Like, we're not going to stand for this. We're not going to accept something that we're not proud of. Like, we're not just going to be okay with you guys, missing the mark the majority of the time. And like,
Hmm.
quality matters so much to us. So that was something, aha moments. We were also in a pitch competition in the fall. It was with 500 women owned businesses. And I'm an introvert. I hate public speaking. I literally went into journalism because I didn't want to talk to anybody in person. I wanted to write. Um, so I never in a million years thought that I could get on stage in a pitch competition.
Wow.
We made it to the third round, which was in Washington D.C., and it was 11 companies, and we were in front of hundreds of people and a panel of 11 corporate judges from like Target, like big name retailers. And
Yeah.
I had to get up there, no note cards, no presentation, me and the stage, and give a 3-minute pitch about Panicpanties and why we are about our innovation, and then what we would use the money for. It was for $20,000, and we placed second out of these incredible women-owned businesses. We won $10,000, which was like
Wow.
really phenomenal. And these women, I mean, I can't even stress how incredible these companies are and these women are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I was shake. I mean, my heart rate on my way
Yeah.
there on the plane 2 days before the pitch was 120. Just thinking about it, it was
Wow.
off the charts. Like, I was so nervous, but um,
You did
you
it
just
though.
you
That's
got to
brilliant.
you just suck it up, and you do what you have to do, and you overcome fear. And like, the biggest thing, I mean, regardless of like the win and all of that, was just that I showed myself like, okay, this is so funny. This is something that you thought you would literally rather die than do, and you did it,
Mm.
and you did it better than you thought you would. So that's another aha moment, just like that self-belief, and no
And you've
obstacle is
got
too
that.
great. You find a way to overcome it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you've got that in your arsenal now. You can look back and go, I did that. And I
I did
think
that.
that's one of the things about overcoming a fear, and how every time, not or overcoming an obstacle, is you can always look back and go, I did that. And it doesn't just exist in the moment, it carries on forward with you, and it's sort of
Yeah,
proof of what you're capable of. And it's yeah, that's really important. Can we talk a
yeah,
little bit more about mental health? How we
I would love to.
Yeah, is that because that's sort of one of the main
Yeah,
parts of the
yeah,
podcast? Yeah, and I think that's
as
really
you were saying.
important. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but so
Yeah.
January was a really hard time because was that a bit
Mhm.
of a breaking point? Was that a bit of a point where things were closing in on you a bit and you were sort of funneling down a hole a bit and going, where do I go? Is that a
Yeah.
bit, but what
I
happened,
think
or were there other things going on?
there were other things going on. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I think that there have been many kind of like moments in this journey where we've just been like not sleeping or
Hmm.
just with our factory, for example, when our factory wasn't creating a quality product or there were all those QC issues, like we were so, Alex and I were so just like, it was like we couldn't relax. You know, it's like your
Hmm.
livelihood. It's
Absolutely
your,
horrible.
if your manufacturing is not okay, like you don't have a business. So we've,
Exactly.
there have been all these times and doing really stressful things or like pitching to a retailer on like there's all these little moments of stress and of things that you have to overcome and emotions and especially working with your best
Hmm.
friends like
Yeah.
figuring out how to like keep that relationship and not jeopardize it and working together and learning how to disagree in the right way but I would say January was more for me personally. It wasn't even that the business was like, it was something so big happening. It was just that I was being too much of an introvert. I also live in San Diego and I don't have, like, I have a great network of friends, but I'm from the East Coast originally and my best friends live across the country. So sometimes it's easy for me to just stay in and just work.
Mm.
And, I'm also single, like which is something that is very interesting being I was in a relationship for many years and got out of that relationship 2 years ago. And so it's kind of I actually haven't talked to many people about this publicly, but I'm happy to share. Like it's so interesting when I'm 32 and like,
Hmm.
you're suddenly single after being in a relationship for like 5 years
Yeah.
and you're starting this business and you're self-funding it, you're not taking a salary and there's so many things like up in the air. It's like I don't know who my
Yeah.
partner is. I have to start dating, which is a whole other like just like complete like mind F, if you'll excuse
Mm.
my language.
Yeah.
It's just like hard. It's a lot of energy that goes into that, emotional
Yeah.
energy. And that's tough on top of managing all these other like kind of unknowns in terms of business, finances. So it was um, learning how to navigate all of that at once.
Mm. Yeah.
Especially. And then I've also, not to like get so like down in the dumps here, but I've also experienced some significant loss within my family. So I know that the holidays at home also kind of trigger a lot of emotions for me. So it was a perfect storm of like working too hard, not resting, throwing, I think sometimes throwing all of my self-worth into this business. Um,
Yeah.
and then also, grief that is long lasting and
Yeah.
comes and, it's just navigating that and then like the unknowns of my personal life and dating and trying to figure out how
Mm.
to incorporate all of that it's a lot. I'm still kind of every
Yeah.
day is trying to figure out how to do it best but I think I'm getting better and happier and I've made some big strides the last 6 months.
Yeah. No, that I completely understand. That is a lot to handle, isn't it? To be fair, you're at a crucial or a sort of what has been stereotypically a significant point of life, and you're managing a business and you're dating and relationships and all that, and you've it's not like a job, is it? It's not like a 9 to 5 where you just turn up and you can
No.
just sort of oh, I've got to do this today, couple of hours, that's done, and then spend the rest of the time messing around, and then you clock off and you're all good. It's not like that at all. It's
Mhm.
you have to bring your life force to this thing, and
Yeah,
then you have to put everything you can into it, and you feel as though it's a reflection of you. And as we talked about earlier, you put it's your identity, and and I suppose the good side of that is that it's so rewarding. And when this is very, very successful, as it will be, you can look back and go, it was very much worth it. I mean, that's a cliche, no pain, no gain, but it really is. It is high risk, high reward. That is entrepreneurship, isn't it?
for sure.
Ultimately, and you,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think
and
for entrepreneurs too, like of course there's the risk and there's like the hardships of doing it and there's the stress and there's the emotion, everything that goes into it. But for me, what would be worse or harder is like working for somebody else forever and just
Yeah.
feeling that cap over me in terms of like my
Mm,
personal career. And that was like that was soul crushing, that was draining,
mm,
that was exhausting. I was so tired throughout the days, like I was like sitting at my desk like trying to keep my eyes open. I've always been a really hard worker, but it's just like my heart
yeah.
wasn't there. And so
Absolutely.
I say that like I'm happier than I ever have been in my life.
Mm,
You have more things you have to work through, and like
yeah.
I've been in there and therapy, love. Find yourself
Yeah.
therapist, like honestly, it really
Definitely.
helps so much because you don't have to lean so much on your other relationships to help you through hard times. You have somebody that's dedicated to doing that
Yeah.
with you, so couldn't recommend enough. But I'm so happy in what I'm doing and I feel so purposeful and I feel so excited and energized every day. um
Mm.
and I
That's what it's all
wouldn't,
about.
if I had that security of working at a job, I would feel secure, maybe, who knows these days, like I don't know how much job
Hmm.
security really brings these days, but I would have kind of that like emptiness of what am I creating? What am I doing that I actually love?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Even great advice is, even if something's difficult but it feels like it's the right thing to be doing, just stick at it, because
Yeah.
there's the difficulty is more surface level, but then deep down is that feeling that you get. That's more important than the surface level difficulty.
And nothing
Um,
nothing worth doing is easy. Like, I don't
yeah.
know any entrepreneur that's been like, "Oh, that was easy." It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But like,
Mm.
even more important than the outcome is really, and this sounds like a cliche too, but it's like who you become through that process. I am
Yeah.
so vastly different than the person that I was 2 years ago, than like,
That
and
was the
I'm
question.
grateful
Yeah.
for.
Carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Stole it from
How
you.
are you how are you different? How have you grown?
Oh my God.
The
In every
endless.
way. I
Okay.
feel like we learn so much every day, constantly
Yeah.
about everything. Like
Hmm.
whether it be something like, how to build a website, to how to pitch to a buyer, to the
Yeah.
confidence. I think self-confidence has been like a huge thing for me. Like I just being so, I'm naturally, like I've said, I think 3 million
Hmm.
times throughout this
Yeah.
podcast, I'm very naturally introverted. Like I
Yeah.
just, and my friends now, like looking at the person that I was like when I was living in Manhattan like 10
Yeah.
years ago to where I am now, like so like I'll talk to everybody. I love networking. I mean, I'm still like, I think the definition of an introvert is you're drained by
Yeah.
social activity actually
Yeah.
decreases like your energy
Hmm.
level, whereas like for an extrovert it increases. So I definitely need a lot of my alone time, and living alone now is very nice, and it's going to be
Yeah.
hard to change that one day, if when and if I do
Yeah.
find my person. But
You
um
will do.
yeah, yeah, but I feel so much more comfortable like in my skin and with who I am and feeling like I'm on my path. Um and also like Alex and I, for example, we being best friends working together, we actually, it was her idea, which was brilliant, to have kind of like a coach, in terms of
Mm.
like we went through, I don't know, a few months where we really were seeing this coach that was helping us navigate like how to work together, how to, our different personality types, like how best
Yeah.
to disagree, how to like
Of
bring
course.
things to the table to each other. And I think that that has also been super helpful. So that's definitely been a big change too.
Yeah. No. W- Managing a team, especially if you're friends, that must be difficult sometimes. But you must. Do you all bring different things to the table? Have you all got different
Oh
strengths?
yeah,
I think we spoke about it.
so
Yeah. Yeah.
different. We're all so different. Like I handle like I mean, I'm a writer, so I do writing, but so does Catherine Ann. So there's certain things we overlap in, but social media, marketing, sales, product development, um,
Hmm.
kind of like a lot of the graphic design stuff falls under me. Alex does like operations, logistics. She shares sales with me. We all like brainstorm with marketing, but she does finance, like things that I could never even, I'm like dyslexic with numbers. I mean, the company would tank in like 2 days if I ever tried to manage anything in terms of numbers. And I could never do what she does. Like solo founders, I have so much respect for, because I don't know how one person, I mean, I guess that's why you get help, but it's just, I'm so grateful to have them as my co-founders. Catherine Ann is the most hilarious person you'll ever meet. She's absolutely ridiculous and such a personality. She does like all of our creative direction with our photo shoots, with branded content. She does an incredible job of working on partnerships, working with me on social media. She does a lot of our TikToks. Follow us on, well, I'm sure we'll get this to the end, but get to this at the end, but well, TikTok is a fun one to follow us on. So yeah, we
Yeah,
all have
definitely.
very, very different skill sets, but they complement each other. And I'm so grateful that I have these. My best friends were so talented. Like, I don't know how I lucked out like that.
What do you do to keep your head straight? What do you do to relax when things are getting tough? How do you detox?
Um, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to How
Okay.
I Built This, uh, which is a great podcast by Guy Raz, and it's just really helpful in hearing other stories of other entrepreneurs. He does an incredible job of focusing on not like how wonderful their successes are, but like how
Yeah.
hard their journey was and like what they had to overcome. So I think anything that makes me feel like like we're
Mm,
not alone, like
yeah.
other people have gone through this, like no journey is perfect, that's helpful.
Hmm.
Therapy, couldn't recommend it enough, super important. um I wish I had done it later, earlier in life, but I was actually very closed off to it until like the last like 4 years. um I love yoga and boxing. I think being
Yeah.
physically like active. Also living in San Diego by the beach, like I'll go for long beach walks, where I can like listen to a podcast or take calls from there, just try and get some fresh air by the beach. Our weather's been terrible this year, but I'm excited to be back. I hear that it's getting better. Um, yeah, and I think just like I have the best friends in the entire world. So I always say like if I'm laughing, I'm happy, and maybe that's like kind of a given, but like the best night to me is a night, or like the most rejuvenating kind of thing that I can do is just like
Hmm.
laugh it off, or like, just find something that's funny, or laugh with my girlfriends or whatever. Like that is like
Hmm.
that is the best. Like I'd rather that than like a
Yeah.
night out, like partying or anything like that. Like I just want to be around people that make me laugh, that make me feel good, that fill your
Mm.
cup. So
And you have
yeah.
something that's more important than happiness, which is meaning, which is what a lot of people are, as much as, meaning and responsibility aren't happiness, but if you've got meaning and responsibilities, that'll get you through a lot of things, I believe. And a worthwhile goal
Mm,
is, I think it's why one of the reasons why people have kids, because, being having kids isn't all a happy moment, but it's there are peaks and troughs, as you've spoken about, and the lows can be low, but the highs can be high. But it's
mhm.
something worthwhile, and it's a journey, and that's what we're all on, isn't it? And that's the best thing. And you're helping people, which is another thing. It's not like you're not
Yeah.
a merchant banker, or you're doing something that's actually enriching people's lives, and you get to experience their feedback, and you get to meet them, and you'll get stories one day, and they'll go, thank you so much, you saved me at this time when I was really struggling, and I needed panic panties, and
Mhm.
and it was there, and it was, you'll get stories of that. And so, you know just, I know, I
Yeah.
can imagine it's hard. I can see in your face that sometimes it can be really hard, but keep going, because it's
Mhm.
really, it's so worth it. And
And I think like also I should mention our new, you know, in the grand scheme of like what
yeah,
I want to do in this world, this is of in terms of like me, like we're solving a problem for women
absolutely.
1,000%, but I can't wait until I can use this and like our successes as a resource to do so
Yeah.
much more. And I do want to say like our new packaging is carbon neutral. It's going to be plant based. It funds ocean cleanup. So for every purchase, we give back to helping remove plastics and all of these terrible things from the ocean. Um, we also we've partnered with the Undies Project, which is a nonprofit in the U.S. and it helps. Well, we donate a portion of our underwear to give to um, refugees and different people or homeless in the U.S. that could really
Mm,
use. That's just to have. It's things that we don't even we
absolutely.
take for granted, like to be able to give them like a decent pair of underwear,
Yeah,
an amazing pair of underwear when they have like, just
yeah,
basically nothing, and to make them feel special and loved and thought about. So that's important. And then um, the whole reason I do this in general is because I want to be able to take care of my family the way that
yeah,
they've taken care of me, and um, just give back to the people that I love in my life. So it's never been about like success has never been about like financial whatever. It's about just having the freedom to live the
yeah,
kind of life that I want to live, and to know that everybody that I love will be taken care of. And, I grew up with, I won't go too much into this because I know we're tight on time and have to wrap, but I grew up with a brother with special needs who passed away when I was 19. And just seeing, like, I just want to, seeing the struggles that my parents went through, and I just want to be able to help them like live a really incredible rest of their life. And to anybody else in my family that's like struggling with anything medical, or need resources, or you just be shocked that even a family that's doing like pretty well these days, like there's just it's just there's so much
absolutely,
more that goes into it,
absolutely.
and so many more expenses, and I just never want my mom to have to go into a nursing home and things like that, it's just these are what drive me.
No,
So
and
yeah.
from a historical perspective, like a lot of the things that have helped women achieve sort of equality is around like hygiene and like the birth control pill and sanitary, all these things. So you're also
Mhm.
contributing to women's lives from that perspective as well. You're taking away another obstacle that
Mhm.
that women can face, and so that's a incredible. That's just that I thought about that last night. I was thinking
Yeah.
that's a really cool little thing. How you're changing changing what could be.
We say change the way women shop for quality underwear. Yeah, it's like it's making, it's one less thing that we have. There's so much that women have to worry about, and this is one less thing. Like if your period strikes early, if you laugh so hard you pee a little, if you're feeling a little sweaty down on, whatever the case may be, like underwear is a wellness essential for women, and it's really hard to go about your day if you feel like, you have to go commando under a skirt for work, or if you're, you there's just so many more reasons. So it's one less thing when women have to worry about, and we feel very passionately about that.
Where do you want Panic Panties to be in 10 years' time? Where do you want to be in 10 years' time? Not just Panic Panties, because you're not just the business, you're also a person.
So I'll answer it separately. For Panic Panties, we want it to be like we want, of course, it to be a household name where
Yeah,
any woman can go up to their friend and say, "Hey, do you have a pair of Panic Panties?" Like just as they would a chapstick or a tampon. Have it be a purse essential. Have it
yeah,
be in every airport, rest stop,
yeah.
drugstore, and even beyond, for women to have access to a quality pair in a pinch. We like to liken ourselves to the brand Legs, and Legs brought premium pantyhose to convenient places. So, we're excited to expand our product line. Maybe some sort of like bundles, with like a sexual wellness one, or
Hmm.
there's all these different kind of like themes that could come about, and expanding to just you know on the go essentials for women,
Yeah,
and to make their lives that much easier. So I'm really excited to see that in store, for us to have our little set, a bigger section, and for
100%.
everybody just to know about the brand. And personally, God, I don't know. I mean, I just want to be happy. I just want to feel like
Content.
I would love to find a partner and somebody that is appreciative of the business and that's understanding, and that I could really feel like we both like, you know, um, complement each other, and somebody to go through this crazy journey with. I would
Yeah,
love that if that happens, if that's in the cards.
yeah.
Um, I would love to hopefully sell the business at some point.
Hmm.
I would love to, be able to go on to something um, like in terms of nonprofit, or be able
Yeah,
to help um, other female entrepreneurs to be,
Yeah.
give back and help them grow their businesses. I don't know what the timeline is like for that. I don't want to work until I'm 80,
Yeah.
but I would like to, grow this to a really great point and then hand it off to just another company that could, really do it justice and do things that maybe we couldn't on our own. So we'll see I don't know what the timeline is like for that,
No.
but I think that I'm just excited to see what's in store. Everybody's always scared about your 30s, and it's like, you're getting older, but 30s are the best so far. You just know
Yeah.
more
No,
about
you're not old
yourself.
at all.
You feel more confident and more comfortable, and you're just gotta appreciate your own journey.
Do you want to do socials? We'll do
Yeah. So
yeah.
find us on Instagram and TikTok. Please follow
I didn't
us.
know you
I
were on
manage it
TikTok.
all. Every follower counts. I hate
Yeah.
managing Instagram. I can't wait until we can have somebody to help us with that. But it's at panic.panties on Instagram and TikTok. We put out some pretty fire, funny content, if I do say so myself. So I think you'll really enjoy it. Men, women, it's our followers are a mixed bag, but they enjoy it. So hopefully you will too. And if you're interested in shopping, we're on panicpanties.com and on Google. We are only right now shipping to the US and Canada um, at this point, but for any listeners that are from either of those two places, you could definitely shop online on our website and hoping to expand soon.
Yes, definitely. Get over to the UK as soon as possible because you'll be ready. Because there is nothing. There's nothing
Yeah.
that you would be. There's
I
no
can't wait.
competition.
I
So
can't wait.
that's
It's hard.
brilliant.
It is hard to do international. It's expensive and all of that good stuff. But as we grow, it's for sure. Like I can't wait to be, even in my Europe travels. Like there were so many times we were in Budapest and everybody was like, we need these in the clubs here and all of
Yeah,
that. And so can't wait. Can't wait to bring it to Europe.
perfect, brilliant. Right, guys, thank you for watching. This has been the Breaking Point podcast with Maria, and yeah, she'll be back another time, definitely, if she wants to. So that's brilliant. All right.
Thanks, Ali. So great to see you.